Okay, here we go. We're on the beach for counting the flowchart episode 3, and I'm sorry everyone, this is going to be exclusively Jin versus Steve counterplay. Um, Steve versus Jin counterplay, to where Steve counters Jin's flowchart. Sorry, I'm a Steve man. Steve man do Steve things. Um, and let's just get into it. Starting off with Jin's Heat Burst 50-50. I fucking love the Steve matchup. Steve Jin fight matchup. It's one of my favorite matchups, alongside the Steve Lee matchup. Ooh, I should do the Steve Lee matchup as my next one. Um, yeah, I'm gonna do the Steve Lee matchup after this. Sorry, next one's also gonna be a Steve exclusive. But let's just go into this. I fucking love Jin versus Steve. Because Steve has so many things that just flat out neutralize Jin's mix, such as his Heat Burst mix. Right weave just shuts it down. That's rising uppercut shut down. Oh shit. That's fucking Hell Sweep launched. I gotta lab a good combo off that. But yeah, you have a fucking launch for Hell Sweep. You have fucking EWGF punished. And then you have Jin's While Rising 4-4 punished too. I don't want to give you guys false information though. There is one counter to if a Steve wants to do right weave, which is if they go for standing 4, it will beat it out. But eventually, if a Jin does, first of all, most Jins aren't going to catch on to you right weaving and doing that. But if they do, then experiment with just fucking stuffing them, You're not gonna, you're not gonna be able to like win this trade with a back one, sadly. But you can 2-1 them. Oh shit, hold up. So eventually it does turn into a 50-50, but by the time the Jin realizes that, hey, this still can be a 50-50, I just don't get a big reward, you're turning their 50-50 that they spent their entire heat bar for into a 50-50 in your favor because you're in Lion's Heart versus them. So by the time that they do realize and they do standing 4, you can make it interesting. You can make it interesting, or you can just hold back the block. So that counters literally 90% of Jin's options off of Heat Burst. And 90% of the time, I don't see Jins go for the stance mix for whatever the fuck it's called, something step, demon step, fucking breaking step. I never see them go for breaking step 4. Even I got a destruction rings. So yeah, there's that one, and then this is the other one, which is Zenshin mix. What I'm gonna say. What I'm going to tell you guys for the Steve Zenshin mix counter only will work against every single Zenshin setup except for 2. It won't work against while running 3, and it won't work against while running 4. Against... No, what am I talking about? It will work against 4 at 4. That's the whole reason why I'm saying this. It won't work with while running 3, and it won't work with standing 3-1. Those are 2+ for the counterplay to work. But you should duck the second hit of standing 3-1, and as for while running 3, you're going to get hit with it in like certain Oki situations when you tech roll on the block, and you're going to have to deal with it. But for the other 90% of the times that Jin enters Zenshin, especially off of F4, this is the counter. Jins fucking love this shit. And the reason why is because in Tekken 7, Power Crushes came out on frame 8. But in Tekken 8, Power Crushes come out on frame 7, meaning that the best you can do is DF1 and the block. And look at the health bars. I'm eating way more chip than he's taking damage. So it's still favorable on Jin's thing. It's still favorable for Jin, and if you're just slightly late, you're getting hit. You're getting punished for DF1 checking. However, because Steve is fucking awesome, and this is something I think only Steve can do, I haven't experimented with any other character, but Steve even if he has a late reaction, he can just fucking just do that. The more I do Jin versus Steve, this is my preferred way to punish it. I understand that, you know, we can do this, or we can do this. However, if Jin goes for his other options, such as his low or his grab, then the second hit is going to whiff, or it's going to get blocked and you're going to get punished, and you might get launched if it whiffs. So I prefer to go for while rising 1-2, is my preferred option. Because you, in your mind, you can register if it is a power crush, and then you can full commit the while rising 1-2, and if it isn't, if they chose another option and the DF1 just lands normally, then you can just duck cancel on their face and you can take your plus frames. So this is what it looks like when Jin goes for his other main options out of Zenshin, which is the low, the dive kick, and the grab, is what I see Jin cycle through the most. And look at this, right? Oh shit. So yeah, Steve's got a pretty good fucking matchup in the Jin. Also, this is completely off topic, but I do want to share this, right? Which is Jin has a couple strings that I think Steve, as well as just the entire roster, should be aware of, right? The first string is right left axe hit. First of all, there is a sidestep window, right? You can just right weave out of this shit. Right, there's that. If you're really precise and you want to call it out, no, you can't back one in. What am I talking about? I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But you can just sidestep and launch this shit. So, yeah, that's your first one to be aware of. The second one to be aware of, shit, not that, is this string right there. Jins fucking love this string. So it is really important to duck that second hit and launch it. And then this is the final one to really be aware of, which is Laser Scraper. Which is, you can already see where I'm going with this, right? Second hit's high. So if you recognize that rear elbow coming your way, you can duck and launch. And even if you block the second hit, the third hit is parryable, meaning that Steve can block the first two hits, parry the third, and potentially get a combo off if the Jin is not a tech roller. Yeah, so there we go. That's basically the Jin Steve thing. A little bit longer this time, but I think Jin versus Steve is a very fun matchup for Steve, especially if you know the Steve exclusive tools that Steve has in order to fight against Jin. Okay, y'all have a good one. Peace.